So, Anna, while I was reading this lovely book, it occurred to me that it really should be a film. And so I think this is a good opening question, given that we're in this beautiful cinema. If you got into a lift with your dream film director and they asked you to briefly tell them what your book was about, what would you say?
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited. Can you hear me at the back? Okay, good. Well, I think the first thing I'd probably do is just kind of accidentally lean my elbow on the doors closed button, because this is like the question that an author absolutely dreads, which is, you know, you've done several years worth of work, you've written 70,000 words, and you've got to get it into a few sort of pithy sentences. So I'll try my best. So set the scene, we're in Italy in 1949. And we have a fragile young girl, so Elisabetta, she's 11 years old, and she starts to claim that she sees the Madonna. And crowds start to flock to witness her miracles. But her best friend, her only friend, Adelina, doesn't believe her, and neither does the local parish priest, who's a very scheming, wily sort of character. But on the other hand, the young nun that's in charge of the orphanage, a young nun called Sister Beatrice, she fully goes with what it takes Elisabetta's side. So that sets up a conflict between the young female nun and the older priest, and then unravel a whole load of secrets, essentially. So that's kind of the core of the book. But it's a kind of quite a multi-layered story. So essentially, it's a story about friendship, female friendship in all its guises. It's about love, protectiveness, the not so nice sort of jealousy type feelings as well. There's a story of female empowerment as well around women in the church in particular. A story of stolen motherhood, which I can't say too much about because otherwise it starts to give away the plot of the book. It's also about trauma as well. So the first person that Elisabetta seems to heal is a young soldier called Giulio, and he's come back traumatised and badly injured after the Second World War. So it's about sort of how do you recover after something like that. There's the mystery of the miracles themselves, which obviously that's got to be sorted out, and then there's a subplot that goes through from 1950s England through to 1990s England. That's an immigrant Italian voice. So there's quite a lot going on. It's quite a sort of multi-layered sort of story. I don't know who enjoys it. If you kind of go back in time, if people enjoyed the book Anita Diamond, The Red Tent, that's a kind of book it's a bit similar to Louis de Bernier, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, all those, the current authors that you kind of might recognise a bit more, Rose Tremaine, Elif Shafak, Claire Chambers. It's that sort of book. But to finish the film director question, it's a little bit, the old Italian films, I don't know how many of you know, there's a kind of neo-realism, after the Second World War, there were lots of gritty Italian films made, so it's a little bit in that vein as well. And I don't know if anyone's heard of the director, Vittorio De Sica, but he came from very close to the area where this book is set, so it kind of has all that sort of feeling about it. So I hope I've released the button now, and I've released the film director, and hopefully I've sold it to them.
They say yes.
Good.
And so another question that writers dread being asked, but I know that you've got things to say about it, is what inspired the writing of the book?
So I think there are three things, essentially. I wanted to capture a particular time in history. So think of Italy after the Second World War. It's been enthralled to Mussolini, and Italy has swapped sides during the course of the war. So it's a country in deep trauma, essentially. So there's that kind of time. The place is where all my ancestors hail from, so my family are here today, so they'll know all about it too. So it's about a very beautiful part of Italy that's in the mountains between Rome and Naples, and it's off the tourist track, but it was a place that had extreme poverty in that post-war period. And I also wanted to capture something about ordinary lives shaped by extraordinary events. So you've got the whole thing of, you know, somebody claims to see the Madonna. Why are people sort of suddenly starting to believe a very fragile young girl? So it's kind of all about the psyche that goes with that as well. So I hope to bring together a sort of memorable place, what people believe and what they act on in life. So, many of you will know that I have a sort of coaching and counselling background, so I'm very interested in what makes people tick. And so it's that kind of combination of time, place, extraordinary events, but ordinary people at the end of the day that I wanted to capture.
Thank you. You describe yourself as the child of Italian immigrants. I wondered what it was like for you growing up in the UK. And did writing the book help you connect with that side of your life?
So I've already mentioned part of the storyline is set in from the 50s to the 90s in England, and it's a female voice, an Italian immigrant. So I wanted to kind of capture what it's like to be that outsider in a society, and to change language and to integrate into a different world. Personally, I think this book has been about me sort of exploring my Italian heritage and coming to terms with it and celebrating it. It hasn't always been the case. Some of you will know that here. I grew up, my parents spoke to me in dialect Italian, and we used to get sent to proper Italian classes of an evening, and I absolutely hated it. I hated everything that went with it. So I kind of turned my back on it for a long time. But I think this has been part of me kind of really exploring the bits that matter to me and trying to get that down in a way that would be, sort of compelling and interesting to other people. So I think that's... the other thing I wanted to say about language is that if you grow up with another mother tongue, I think it gives you a real sensitivity to language generally. And I hope that that's come out in the book. I think I've said what I wanted to say about that.
Well, it was a sort of similar theme. I wondered if your Catholic upbringing came into the writing of the book at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of you will know that I was raised a Catholic. I worked in a parish. I ran a retreat centre for the Catholic Church. So I hope that whole sort of the rituals and the history are rich and come across very well. But, as a woman, I have issues with the Catholic Church, and I have issues around how, on the one hand, you've got the veneration of the Virgin Mary as a very powerful female figure, but yet women are quite subservient in the church. So I wanted to write a story where women sort of kind of had an opportunity to shine in a slightly different way. And the other bit that I wanted to say about the sort of Catholic history bit of it, so where I've set the book is in Adelina, which is very close to Monte Cassino, which some of you will be aware was bombed very badly in the Second World War. The abbey was completely destroyed. That abbey was founded by Saint Benedict, and Saint Benedict, the rule of Saint Benedict is still very strong in, is foundation of the Catholic Church. What people don't know is that Saint Benedict had a sister who's called Scholastica, and his sister was equally devout, but she wasn't allowed to be part of the monastery because she was a woman. So I have created a scenario where she might have set up her own community, and that has kind of got a part of it as well. So again, I wanted to represent that in terms of the Catholic background.
Thank you. And on a similar theme, you've travelled in Italy as an adult. I wondered if that informed the writing. Did you do any research while you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think how it comes across mostly is in the locations and the settings. So the orphanage, for example, where Elisabetta and Adelina are, is a kind of amalgam of, I'm sure many of you would have been to these wonderful old, slightly dilapidated buildings in Italy that are just, they're almost on every corner, and you just think, wow, I wanted to incorporate that feeling. There's a bishop's palace that appears in the book that is inspired by a place in Italy near Castel Gandolfo, the Pope's residence. Obviously, Athena itself, where my parents came from, features strongly, but it's an idealised version. So I don't want everyone to go off there, sort of, with their thinking of travel guide. It's not that sort of. I've ramped up some of the features there, but it is a beautiful place still. So I think that's how Italy is represented in the book, is through place particularly.
And did you want to say something about? I know you met a woman there who was very interesting and maybe helped inform the writing. I don't.
Yeah. So there is somebody who was born in Italy at exactly the same date as the character Elisabetta. Her name's Angela Volpini, and she claimed to see the Virgin Mary at exactly the same time that this book is set. And there's some really interesting videos online about how you can look her up. She still runs a Catholic foundation to this day and still, you know, holds by everything that she witnessed, and she has quite a big following still. So, you know, this is not stuff that's gone away, and we know that obviously the veneration of St. Bernadette in Lourdes is, you know, very long-standing, and pilgrims go there all the time.
So if Broken Madonna were to be made into film, which obviously it will, because the film director was very impressed by your elevator pitch, who would be your dream casting?
Okay, so my dream casting, I think for Elisabetta, so she's quite a fragile young girl, but she's very bright, a little bit manipulative as well. So I think for her, I definitely want to just cast somebody who's unknown, because I think they're those very innocent qualities that you want to get in a character. For Adelina, her friend, so she's the sort of doubting friend, Elisabetta's only friend. She's a little bit older. She's 15, and she has the nickname of La Giraffa, so the giraffe. And that was the nickname of Sophia Loren when she was that age. And I don't know if you've seen any early photos of Sophia Loren. She was one of those people that, I mean, everyone thinks of her beauty, but she was quite shy and awkward at that age. So I'd like to, if we can use a bit of AI, have a bit of Sophia Loren as she was. For Giulio, so he's the traumatised young soldier, late 20s. Again, going back in Italian film history, there's an actor called Marcello Mastroianni who partnered Sophia Loren in a lot of films, who would be my ideal. But thinking current day, Timothy Chalamet, oh, you thought of him as well. Oh, that's great. I can see, I think he has both the looks and the sensitivity in terms of acting. Who have I missed out? I have missed out, Padre Bosco. So he's the scheming, wily old priest. So I think, if you think of scheming, wily old priests you've seen in films and done well, I think that goes to Anthony Hopkins in the two popes where he played Pope Benedict. And then we've got Sister Beatrice, who's the sort of independent-minded, feisty young nun. And I thought about this long and hard. I think it has to be one of my daughters, to be honest. But in the nicest way possible. I'll let them fight that out for that role.
What a great cast. All right, and I think we would like to hear something from the novel now, if that's all right.